Today we're going to be making elderberry syrup. It's a really good time of the year to prepare elderberry. You can make it in 24 hours. That's what I use, the slow cooker. And I know some people do it on the stove. I just think the slow cooker is easier. Set it and forget it. Well, and then remember to come back to it. But it's a pretty simple and easy recipe, and elderberry syrup is a great immune booster for the cold and flu season. You can take a little bit every day as kind of a preventative to keep your immune system up and ward off all of those germs and cold and flu things coming around that seem to pop up, especially this time of year. And then if you're actually are feeling under the weather, can take a little bit more. It has quercetin in it, which a lot of times is it's from apples, but elderberries also have a large amount of quercetin in them. So I know it's got that in it, and it's also made, which quercetin's a really good for the immune system, an immune booster. And it also has, I put ginger in it, which just helps keep everything flowing, good for digestion, circulation. And I like to put a little cinnamon, helps with the flavor. And then it's made with raw honey. So after the concoction kind of steeps in the slow cooker and the elderberries do their thing with getting all the beneficial stuff extracted from them, make kind of a thick juice. And then that cools down to a little bit over room temperature, and then the honey gets mixed in. And then I like to use local honey because that helps with people who deal with like allergies, seasonal outdoor allergies. The honey from the local flowers seems to be helpful for people that struggle with that. And the raw honey preserves more of kind of the natural antibacterial properties that are in honey, such as like, sometimes there's small amounts of propolis and other things. So the raw local honey is the best thing to use. It's added after the elderberry concoction cools down because you don't want to heat up the honey too much, or it'll destroy all those beneficial properties that come from the live honey. Okay, let's get started. Here are the ingredients. You can see there are the elderberries. I use a dried elderberry. Some people gather their own. They're ripe this time of year. But I just find it simpler to order or go to a store. I got these last year. I had them on hand still. They keep in a sealed package. It was really hard to find elderberries a couple years ago when they're in high demand, but they should be available now. And then I use spring water. And so I like to use about 3 times the amount of elderberries. It will cook down. A lot of recipes call for like a 2-to-1 ratio, but because I'm using the slow cooker and it'll be on the heat for longer, I like to add a little bit more water. These are the spices that I'll be adding, both for flavor and for medicinal properties. I like to use fresh grated ginger. You could certainly use dried ginger. They sell a kind that's like chopped up. I find that easy to use for tea, but for things where I'm really wanting a lot of ginger flavor, I like to use the fresh root. And it's good to pick out one from the store that's like shiny. The skin looks shiny. It makes it easier to grate, and it's fresher. And so there's no set amount. You can kind of see here it's probably half a cup. And I grate that. There are also cinnamon flakes in here, and you could use cinnamon sticks. I just didn't have any on hand. I did have these cinnamon flakes. You could also use cinnamon powder, but I find that the bigger pieces of spices are easier to strain out when we get to that point than like the powders. And so you might have a little more less of a filtered product
if you decide to use powdered ingredients. And then there are cloves, and cloves are great both for the flavor and this time of year. They are anti-parasitic. So if, you know, I feel like at the end of the summer, a lot of people have been outside camping, hiking, playing outside at playgrounds. It's just a good idea to incorporate cloves this time of year because they discourage kind of those internal things that we might have picked up while we were spending a lot of time outdoors. And so to use them, I like to use them in my teas this time of year, chai tea, and yeah, they're a great ingredient to the elderberry. So those are in there too. They have a nice flavor. The last ingredient that will be added after it sits in the slow cooker for 24 hours is honey. This is the honey that I chose to use. It's Pacific Northwest Blackberry Blossom Raw Honey, and it was a good price. I think this was $5.99 for this. There's quite a range in prices of honey. Some people sell it, you know, their local farms, then they sell it just out of their home or in their driveway, or they distribute to small, you know, farmers markets. I do think it's important to get raw local honey if possible, and it will be added at the end. It has preservative qualities as well that will help improve the shelf stability of the product. At this point, I will mention some people like to put alcohol in their elderberry syrup. I don't. I just use the honey. And so this recipe is designed to be kept 3 to 6 months in the refrigerator. I've had it up to a year in the refrigerator and it's just fine. My son takes a little bit every day. He likes the flavor. And it's been fine, it's just in the fridge. So I do like to make a new batch once a year, and I've found that if kept in the refrigerator with just honey, it does fine.
So now it's time to add all the ingredients to the slow cooker insert, and then we'll put it on the heat and just set it.
Here we have all the ingredients. They've been added. Just going to give them a quick stir. You can see the water's already changing color. The elderberries, some people use it as a dye. Makes a good dye. I've never tried it. I think it might be one of those dyes that needs some sort of mordant to help it set, but it certainly is a beautiful color. So I'm going to put this on the heat and leave it. Okay, it's the next day, and this is the elderberry syrup. As you can see, it's cooked down quite a bit. I set it on the lowest, longest setting, which is, I think, 10 hours. So then after the 10 hours, it's just been warming, but it's still hot. And so I'm going to strain it and let it cool down, and then mix in the honey.
Here we are, we're gonna, and now we're gonna strain it. So I used cheesecloth. I just cut off a piece, and I have this funnel, which will go inside, fits inside the jar, and put that around there. It is still pretty hot, so we'll do this carefully. Making a little bit of a mess here, but it's all good. And I used my dish towels that are already a little bit purple from the wash, so.
So this just needs a little bit of time to strain all the last drops of goodness and cool down a little bit.
Okay, we're back with our syrup, and it's cooled down to below 110 degrees. If it's warmer than that when we add the honey, it's gonna probably destroy some of the beneficial stuff in there, the propolis and other things that help preserve it and also help with the antibacterial properties. So we have our honey over here we talked about before, the raw honey, and even though this boiled down quite a bit, this is a quart jar, it's a pint, so this has 4 cups in it, probably it's about 2/3, 3/4 of the way full. And so this is going to be, might not put all of the honey in there. I like to do like a 2-to-1 ratio or a little bit less because I'm not a big sweets fan, but the more honey, the more it will be preserved. So as you can tell, this isn't really about the exact measurements, some general ratios, but it's not too picky of a recipe. So I think you can see I used most of the jar. And give it a stir. I don't know if you can tell, it's
pretty, it's kind of two-tone, you can see the honey at the bottom and the elderberry syrup. So we'll mix that all up, but that's about the ratio we're going for.
And so we want it a little warmer than room temperature because that's going to help mix the honey in. But we don't want it over 110 degrees. So I have just a simple slotted wooden spoon here, or bamboo spoon. And you can see it's beginning to blend. Might take a little bit. Another trick I could do is to put the lid on and shake it, which I think I'm going to do now. It's getting there. I'm going to help it along a little bit. Oh yeah. And it's done. That's it. We have a nice quart of elderberry syrup. I do like to put some in here. This is a really easy kind of way to have some to go. I have a small metal funnel and a dropper bottle, and I'll pour a little bit in. You know, just for as a preventative, you can take like a dropper full. It's not too hard to come by these dropper bottles. And they are a little tricky to clean out, but you can reuse them as long as, you know, they're sterilized. And I'm gonna pour some in here. This makes a really good, this is a messy pour. And this makes a good way to have some traveling, where you're not carrying the whole jar. This can stay in the fridge, and this is a good amount to have like on the go. I'll probably keep this one in my car. You know, I wouldn't want to keep this longer than a week or two without being refrigerated, because this recipe does not have alcohol in it. It just has the honey, the elderberry, and the spices, the ginger, the cinnamon, and the cloves. I'm going to try some actually. Oh yeah, it's a nice flavor. I love the flavor. It reminds me of like December and winter with the cinnamon and the cloves, and the elderberry is a really nice flavor. That's good stuff. So there you have it. That's an easy, simple elderberry syrup recipe that has just a few ingredients and is very beneficial for keeping everybody healthy and if you do get sick, for moving things along quickly. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I also have one about making soap that might be kind of along the same lines of the DIY like home care products. And I'll be doing some lotion. I think I'm going to show, I have a few sweaters that I made that I think I'm going to show in case people are interested in making sweaters this year and are looking for simple patterns. I have some sweaters I made last year that I think I'll show. And so if you'd like to see those videos, feel free to subscribe. There's a lot on my channel, but I'm kind of figuring out like the direction I'm going in. And hit that thumbs up button if you appreciated this video. Have a great day, everybody.